Life is hectic, demanding, and doesn't stop. When honest with ourselves, we must confess we often don't know what the hell we're doing. The Larkcast is an ongoing conversation about the inclusive and mischievous nature of God's presence through the lens of all the things that make up this phenomenon we refer to as life. Astonishing grace and refreshing honesty collide right here for your weekly encouragement. All right, man, here we go.
Here we go. 3, 2, and 1. Welcome back to the Larkcast. Tony and Russ are with you here today. Big shout out to all you Larks out there, those who have a big smile on their face today because they know they are loved, period. No ifs, ands, buts, or fine print.
I like that. No fine print.
No fine print.
Certain phrases, man, they just do the work, dude. That is one that oh yeah, God loves me. You know what I mean? Sometimes it just so falls flat on our ears, but then you hear like no fine print.
Yeah, there's no there's no switcheroo. There's no bait and switch. There's no, grace to law altar call. There's no gospel on the front end. And you better get to work to prove that this trust was real genuine.
Got to do it, man. You got to get that fruit lined up.
That's right.
Fruit going.
We're definitely getting ahead of ourselves here. We're in John 15 today. So if you know anything about us, if you've read Reclaim, this is a pretty important one to us.
Very near and dear, man. Near and dear to our hearts and our minds for good reasons.
Yes.
Just yesterday, we had a church leader, friend, used to be a comrade, but he really wrestled with the gospel not being smart. He wanted to be smart. He wanted it to be strategic. So he started running down a different road. And in a recent post, man, he was just hammering away, bro, on First Peter, talking about, for freedom, man. Like, don't use your freedom, to do evil, right? Use your freedom to serve God, man. And I'm like, yeah, amen, dude. And why would, we're already free, so we might as well like run in good and beautiful things that bring about harmony in our lives. But he's like, no. Nope. This fruit that I'm talking about, this service, that is the fruit of freedom. That is why you were set free. You were set free for service. For service, you were set free.
Mm-hmm.
And bro, it's like, I'm just kind of looking at him like, wait, what? And everyone's like, yeah. I'm like, I'm pretty sure Galatians 5 says, for freedom, Christ set you free. Yeah, but I'm like, wait, where's the, I don't understand. Where's the but from?
Mm-hmm.
That's what the verse actually says. For freedom, Christ set you free.
Yeah,
I know, but damn, dude.
Mm-hmm.
Something in us, man. It's always dragging that fine print into the equation.
Yeah, and it's like, I think if you've listened to us, and I think you'll find here today, man, like we are not against love, like a horizontal expression of love, or service, or any of that.
All for it.
I think we're two dudes that for a really, really long time felt that it was our responsibility to make that happen. And in the scenario that we're going to get in today, I don't think we really saw ourselves as branches at all. I think we kind of saw ourselves as senior pastors walking right behind the vine dresser or right alongside him through these vineyards.
Yes.
doing the work as apprentice, vine dressers.
Yes. Yeah. It's almost like the shepherd, you know what I mean? Equation and sheep. I had a pretty cool lunch, man, with a pastor on Monday who's sort of stepped away from the game. He's trying to rethink where he's going to serve next. And in our conversation, he was talking about, just what kind of shepherd are you, man? What kind of shepherd am I? What kind of shepherd do we need to be? Are we the kind that leave the 99 for the one? Or are we more like those sheep that are also shepherds that stay with the 99? Because those 99, there's a safety in their togetherness. That's why Jesus was free to leave those 99 to pursue the one. And I'm like, bro, you're about as dumb on this subject as you are on farming in the conversation that we just had about vine dressers and branches and what they actually do. I'm like, what are you talking about?
Hey,
He's
with
like,
a little imagination, you get real clever with the scriptures, man.
well, you might want to go hang out with somebody who actually works with sheep. There is zero safety in the 99. In fact, if one of them walks over to a cliff and steps off of it, the other 98 will follow suit.
Oh man.
We can go down the list here, but I think that's just it, man. There's I love that you brought up the fact that we are two dudes who lived in that world for a number of years.
Yeah. Okay. For sure.
So we grabbed on to good news, but I can say that I also grabbed on to all the fine print that I could. Yeah. I brought in all the ifs and all the buts and all the, therefores that I could possibly grab onto.
Yeah.
Because it offers you, which we've said it a million times, and I'm just going to keep saying it, it offers you a sense of control.
Yeah.
And so you always opt for any kind of religious take you can find, with this.
Yeah.
It's that's why sometimes, I was in another conversation last week with somebody who was just talking about the beauty of community groups and the role that it plays in helping you understand these scriptures that we're talking about. If you get 8 or 10 people in a room together, you're going to get a much better interpretation of the text than you'll get alone. And I'm like, well, I don't know. I'm pretty sure 8 to 10 people who are just as addicted to control as you are together in a room are going to always come up with some way to misinterpret what Jesus is saying here so that we can have a hand in this. And as scary as it is to free fall, into God's acceptance. Notice I didn't say fly. I don't think faith is flying. I think it's free falling. As scary as that is, oftentimes what I found is the reason why I kept bringing the ifs and the ands and the buts into this is because it allows you not just this sense of, of control, but it almost can give you some sort of assurance in a way. You know what I mean? And then of course that assurance, as you start to dig into it, you go like, well, why do I need the assurance? Why do I need to keep fortifying this with everything that I do in the name of faith? And then eventually go, oh, I think it seems to stem from my perception of what God's like. The perception that I have of what God's like needs me to be this kind of shepherd and figure out, am I the one that leaves the 99 for the one? Am I more evangelistic? Or am I more like that shepherd teacher type man that really keeps the 99 healthy while he's gone? Okay. I'm the one who's like, no. Am I the kind of shepherd that's going to really make sure people understand that they were set free for freedom? I mean, that can be a little reckless. We probably need to say, no, you were set free for service. And so let's really hone in on that kind of service. I can keep going down the line, but eventually what I found, and I think what you found, is it all stemmed from what we thought about who God is. And that perception, therefore, shapes all that we need to go and do in the name of honoring him, pleasing him, becoming the people we're supposed to be, fixing the world, go down the list. And the chapter we're about to get into is going to undo all of that.
Yeah.
In a good and beautiful way.
Right.
And I'm going to let you take it, dude, because I love the study, man, that you've done on this chapter. And it was pretty encouraging to me. So I'm just going to ask you questions, dude, and let you fire away.
Well, when you discover something amazing, that it was, man, this passage along with the parables, this one, I would say probably Pharisee tax collector, Capon's take on that, and then getting into the text on John 15. That one opened my lid and shifted quite a bit for me.
Mm. Well, on that note, all of you larks, check this out. And continue in the Gospel of John, we are in chapter 15 today. And Jesus has a real mic drop moment that will either make you shiver and go spend the rest of your days trying to figure out what kind of Christian you are and all that you need to do to become something better, or it'll do what it did for us. It will stop you dead in your tracks and seeing what this God is actually like and why the gospel isn't smart and why it's so stupid to add to it.
Yeah.
So here it goes. Jesus said, he openly talks about, he says, listen, guys, I am the true vine. My Father is the vine dresser. Okay. He's in a context where this makes sense. He can point to it all around him. He says, every branch in me that does not bear fruit, he takes away, and every branch that does bear fruit, he prunes that it may bear more fruit. Already you are clean because of the word that I've spoken to you. So then Jesus says this. This is where everybody's like, yeah, man, but this is where we got to get it together. Okay. Verse 4, abide in me and I in you. As the branch cannot bear fruit by itself unless it abides in the vine, neither can you unless you abide in me. I am the vine, you are the branches. Whoever abides in me and I in him, he it is that bears much fruit. For apart from me, you can do nothing. If anyone does not abide in me, he is thrown away like a branch and withers. And the branches are gathered and thrown into the fire and burned. If you abide in me, and my words abide in you, ask whatever you wish, and it will be done for you. By this my Father is glorified, that you bear much fruit, and so prove to be my disciples. As the Father has loved me, so have I loved you. Abide in my love. If you keep my commandments, you will abide in my love, just as I have kept my Father's commandments and abide in his love. These things I have spoken to you. Let's get the why down here. That my joy may be in you, and that your joy may be full. Dude.
Yeah. Right there. These things I've spoken to you so that my joy may be in you. The way we used to teach it was that if you don't abide in the right way, you're in the burn pile. So then if it's a warning, it would be like, these things I say to you so that you can be warned. But it's these things I say to you so that my joy may be in you. So he's sharing news. He's sharing a reality, not a formula or a test.
Yeah.
And we'll see if you pass or not, kind of a thing. That's one of the nuggets. And we've dealt with this in Reclaim. We have a big long chunk of it. I forget what chapter it is. And so like there's like some good work in the text there. If you're that kind of person, like you need to dive into the nuances. Reclaim will definitely scratch every itch you have there.
I believe it's chapter 4.
That's just a nice little nugget that I've spoken these things that my joy may be in you.
Yeah. And I think even when you brought that up to me, when we were discussing this in the writing of Reclaim, I remember going, yeah, holy cow. Like I read this text and as I start to move my way through it, I have like a legitimate, oh shit moment in my faith. I'm just being honest. Okay. I'm like, dude, I feel like I just read all these like parables, like 40 of them, where Jesus is talking about, he's unveiling what the Father's actually like compared to what we all think. And it's in seeing this, it actually allows you to stop hedging your bet like Adam and Eve and bringing a parachute to the equation every day. But instead you get to just free fall in the freedom of grace and to learn to recline in him because he's good and you can trust him.
Yeah.
But then this chapter was that chapter you're like, I don't know, man. I just feel like Jesus took the white gloves off and he's like, no. But again, like you said, you get to the end and it's like, I said this for your joy.
Right.
Okay. So I would ask you, dude, well, if that's the case, back up and show me why this would why seeing what Jesus is really saying here brings about the joy, man.
Yeah. So first, I think it's just knowing who we are and who he is in the story. That's the first thing he gets into. You know, I'm the true vine, my father's the vine dresser, and we're branches. Like we're literally branches. We're down the line of a scenario and a picture he's painting here. Not only do we have an expert vine dresser who actually knows how to care for a field, he knows how to care for people. He knows what he's doing. He's an expert at what he does. And then not only that, you have a vine. He's referring to first century, Jewish viticulture. It's the growing and caring for grapes. Wine. We're talking about wine here. And you have a main vine which supplies the source to, the source of life to everything. And we're literally we're branches. I mean, we're receiving the entire way. We're receiving life from the vine and receiving expert care from the vine dresser. And yet we will all day long interpret abide as if this whole thing depends on us. As if God is a static God sitting off in the distance, and here's a bunch of crap we need to do to make this happen.
Yeah.
And so there's issues of abide. We need to talk about abide, but right off the bat, we used to see ourselves as junior vine dressers, anything but branches. Anything but branches. And all of our programs and systems and everything were it was the vine pathway for you to get to bearing fruit. So forget Jesus as the vine. He kind of was an entry point and like a mascot for this whole thing. And all the programs and the signing up and all that's your vine to get to the fruit that you need to bear to prove that you're a genuine disciple. Because the old theological math went like this: you're saved by grace alone through faith. That faith, if genuine, will produce fruit. And if you're not producing fruit, then you never really trusted in the right way. And so then the whole time you're like, do I have genuine, saving, authentic faith? Yeah. So it leads to radical introspection. You're constantly looking at your life. You're constantly looking at your performance. Of course, churches and leaders don't say it this way, but it gets measured that way. Do you show up for everything? Yeah. Are you in a small group? Are you doing these Bible studies? Looking at your attendance. Are you staying out of the counselor's office? Like all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's like it's almost like churches are signing you up to become a good narcissist. You're a real bad narcissist. You don't do all these things that you should do.
Yeah.
But we're going to offer you a list of programs so that you can do a number of other good things that are all centered on introspection, as in they're all ultimately about you.
Right.
Which seems to be the whole opposite of letting go, the opposite of faith, trust, dependence, the actual life that God's given us. So what I'm hearing from you is right out of the bat, it's nailing down the characters in the story.
Right.
Understanding that the Father, Jesus says the Father is the vine dresser, not you, not me, not any of us. He is the vine, the source of life, period. Not you, not me, not any of us. And we're branches. So that definitely throws a wrench in that whole, remember that real popular like trellis and the vine stuff, man, that was real big at one time, like in the church world?
Yeah, it was like your trellis was like your systems and your programs, and you need to just make it good enough so that the organic nature of like what God's doing and people can grow on it.
Could really grow. So the vine could really grow and produce good fruit. Out of curiosity, how many branches get together and build trellises?
No, they build the trellises out of the wood of the dead branches. So instead of burning it, they just recycle it into trellises.
Yeah.
Which actually, there's a good analogy there, because trellises do actually kill branches. I've seen people literally walk away from God because of getting involved in trellis.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just funny, and I can remember like grabbing onto that book and being like, dude, this is so good, man. This is so good.
We did too. Yeah. Oh, yeah. We had the whole staff reading that thing.
But then again, you go back to the text, what we're doing right now, and you're going, this doesn't make any sense. Branches I thought he just said you could do nothing. You're a
Yeah.
branch that lives in the vine, and all of a sudden
Right.
we're like, yeah, the vine dresser doesn't really know what he's doing, so we
Right.
probably need to get some trellises going here.
I mean, the biggest
Okay, so
nightmare, yeah, the biggest nightmare in the Christian life for someone who really wants to be an authentic disciple and really wants to know that they're in is a season of fruitlessness.
mm,
It's the biggest nightmare. And I would say for a Christian leader, that's your biggest nightmare too, because um you're going to get judged based on how well you led these people in fruit too.
yep.
That's something that Christian leaders carry as well. But what's interesting is in 15, I'm the true vine, my father's the vine dresser, every branch in me, notice the branches in him, every branch
Mm-hmm.
in me that does not bear fruit, he takes away. And every branch that does bear fruit, he prunes that it may bear more fruit. Both of these branches are in him. And if you know anything about John language, Pauline language, whatever, in me, in him, that's union, bro.
Yeah,
That's like we're in.
a one-way
Notice you have a
union.
right. And notice you have a branch that's in him that's not bearing fruit. Well, in the old theological map, there was no room for that at all. If you were genuine, you're always bearing fruit. And so we always thought that takes away in verse 2, every branch in me that does not bear fruit, he takes away, was being taken away in judgment, like in verse, I think it's 6.
Yep.
It's the pile, it's the burn pile. So in diving into this, you come to find out, well, what's the thing that's shaping their imagination? Well, it's this viticulture. It's how like vines used to grow. And back then, it's not like when I travel into like Southwest Michigan and all the vineyards and all that. They're up on trellises. They're suspended, right? They're separated.
Mm-hmm.
Wind can come underneath it. They're up really, really high. For the sun to shine on them. Well, back in the day, they used to just grow on the ground in big heaps. And so every once in a while, the vine dresser would come along and he would see like, man, there's a spot here that's not getting enough sun or it's not getting air underneath it. And what he would do is he would lift it up. He would raise it up. So he might put a rock underneath it or a stick or something like that. And the whole idea is he's trying to get this branch more exposure to the sun,
Mm-hmm.
better care. And so when it says every branch of me that does not bear fruit, he takes away, that Greek word can be interpreted to lift up or to rise up. And
Mm-hmm.
it's just a trick. It's a vine dresser move, an expert vine dresser move to come and lift this thing up. And of course, now once you say raise up and lift up, now all of a sudden you start thinking to yourself, rise up, resurrection, being cared for, loved by this vine dresser, not cut off and thrown into a damn burn pile. It's
Yeah.
dude, it changes the whole thing. Dude, that right there will undo your entire theology. That
Yep.
nugget right there.
Yep. 100%. And for me, I love it because it all ties into all these stories that Jesus tells about what the Father's like and what he, God who's become flesh, is doing among us and what he's going to accomplish and
Right.
bear through us.
Mm-hmm.
What I'm saying? Like it all starts to come, for me, it all really starts to find a seat together within this story that Jesus tells.
Yeah.
So hearing what you've said so far, getting the characters right. The Father's the vine dresser, Jesus is the vine, we're the branch. Okay. Understanding that he abides in us. Okay. He abides in us. There's a union here. Abide in me as I abide in you.
Yes.
That's crucial. And then understanding that all these branches are both scenarios that you've unpacked. Both scenarios are in him. All the
Yes.
branches are in him. There's not this
Yeah.
over there group, and then there's the us over here that got it together group.
Right.
And then, of course, what we see here is this Father in his care for this, when he sees branches that aren't bearing fruit, you find this word in the scriptures that literally means in the Greek language, what they were written in, to lift up.
Raise up.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah. And another thing I think we have to grapple with is Jesus uses the same word to talk about the interaction in this union. Abide in me and I in you. So however you define abide, it has to go both ways. And how do churches mostly define abide? Well, it's all the activity. It's abide. It's regimented prayer. It's Bible reading. It's, community. You have to be
Mhm.
doing all these things. Well, if you define it that way, how does that fit then with Jesus saying, well, I'm abiding in you too? Like,
Yeah.
is Jesus sitting around doing studies and praying to us, kind of a thing? It's like, dude, like the word
Yes.
abide, it means meno. It's not even really so much like a doing verb as much as it's like a remain, sit, and stay put with no thought of leaving. That's what the word means.
Whoa.
Sit, remain, stay put with no thought of leaving.
Mm.
And if you define it that way, now all of a sudden gospel and promise and like covenant and all that, like I will never leave you and forsake you. I will come and make my home with you, is what he said in
Mhm.
the last chapter 14. We're going to come and sit and have a meal with you. We're going to
Yep.
sobre mesa around this table. I'm not going anywhere when it comes to you. I am your God and I'm your God forever. I'm not going anywhere. I'm
Mhm.
abiding in you. And if we apply that as a word that gives shape to our faith, like how we trust in him, well, yeah, dude, we stay put, we remain. It's Peter's words. Like, where else are we going to go after the crowd left in John 6?
Yeah.
Well,
For you have the words
you
of life.
alone, where the hell else am I going to go? Like, like
Yep.
I've left various Western normative forms of church, and I've ebbed and flowed in terms of like having communities at my house and not, and being in between, and and all that kind of stuff. But man, like I can't I can't walk away from Jesus in all
Yeah.
this.
Yeah. I think it's, we in the scriptures, it talks about persevering in our faith, right? And it's a passage that oftentimes I think people will undo. It's like, we need to, if you persevere, right? If you persevere in this, then, then you're really saved. So in what I found within church leadership and church membership is we often attach a lot of things to that in the name of
Mm-hmm.
abiding in Jesus.
Yes.
But the words from in the scriptures are like verbatim is, if you persevere, not shifting, okay, not shifting from the hope that you claimed.
The hope.
That's what it says.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going, how did persevere in faith become perform in the name of faith?
Yeah.
Those are two different things.
Right.
It's it is directly pointing to what you're talking about. It's sitting, it's remaining, it's trusting.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Like, so it's almost like in the name of good works, faith somehow didn't make the cut,
Mm.
which is really odd.
Yeah.
Seeing how Jesus said the very will of God is that you believe in the Son.
Right.
And it's the act of trust and trusting alone that awakens you, okay, to
Mm-hmm.
reality of life in Him.
Yeah.
So I just think there's something really beautiful about that, because sitting is a work. You know what I'm saying? Trusting is a work. It's like,
Yeah, like we're like, yeah, it's yeah,
it's this,
there's a phenomena of an activity there. Like our intellect's engaged, our emotions, our will, our volition, like we're involved in
yeah,
that. And I think grace theology dudes get this knock that like, that, oh, well, so then just nothing. And it's like, dude, like the life of faith, dude,
it is
that's
way beyond what
involved.
you're doing.
It is involved, and you
Yes.
will be involved in it.
Yeah. I'm just going to be straight here with you and anybody that's listening. It is way, and I mean way, way the hell easier, dude, to go fill my calendar with church activities in the name of good works, in the
Yes.
name of bearing fruit,
Yes.
than it is to actually live a life of faith in Jesus.
Yep. Preach, bro. Come on, come on,
I mean,
dude.
let's like enough's enough, man.
Yep. Yep.
Signing up for some
It's true.
service here and there, dude, is
Mm-hmm.
way easier than following along with what the scriptures say, that my faith is in him who is unseen, not
Mm-hmm.
in what is seen, for what is seen is temporary,
Right.
but him who is unseen is eternal. And then
Mm-hmm.
going on to talk about it's in him right now that I live and dwell and
Mm-hmm.
find my very being. And it's
Yeah.
in him that I will forever dwell one day, face to
Yes.
face.
Yes.
So to be able to have seasons where you don't see things happening the way that you think they should be going down,
Mm.
but yet to be able to maintain, to sit, to remain as someone who's already been raised up in Jesus. Dude, I'm
Yeah.
just using words right now that are right out of this very text.
Mm-hmm.
That life of faith, I think, is what we see in Jesus.
Right.
And that's what we've been invited into. So, dude, such a killer point. And I don't think I'll ever forget, man, that conversation we were having when that led all to the you writing that piece and within Reclaim where you unpack that. I was like, man, there it is. Like
It's so
that's what
good,
he's
man.
like. He does.
Big shout out to here's a throwback name. Big shout out to Joey Mayfield for, turning me on to some of these nuggets, and then we took it from there and
Yeah,
really kind
man.
of
Cheers to
extracted
him.
some stuff. And I think too, like going back to your point, you know, in this moment of faith, we talk about dying quite a bit, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this whole idea of like a seed dying before it can produce fruit. Well, the thing that needs to be contended with is the old man. And the old man
Right.
wants control. And he'll take control in the form of rebellion or righteousness, honestly.
Yeah.
And we talked about this last episode. My entry point into Jesus, how he revealed himself in my story, was a rebellious kind of entry point. He met me in my rebellion. And no one ever really warned me about the dangers of righteousness and of religion. But Paul, who was self-admittedly blameless according to the law, coined the phrase the old man. He didn't have a season where he was running around getting hammered, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Running with, women and doing drugs and extortion and, all greed and all that. The dude was the poster child for righteousness, and he coined the phrase the old man. The old man wants control. And so I want to add to your point. Not only is church life easier, it provides a nice little dome where the old man can thrive in control by signing up for things, by participating in programs, right? Events, things, going and giving 4 hours on a Saturday to go serve, right? The church will say, for freedom, you've been set free to serve. Well, here's some ways to do that. You can do it here, here, and here. Cool. Box check, box check, box check. Done. I just did it. There's my proof, right? And so that whole thing can be, and I don't want to say it is across the board, because I don't want to be like some people that we talked about pre-show. We said God is not in a certain place, but that whole thing really, honestly, could just provide a balm to the death that like God is trying to do. He's trying, and you avoid your death. You actually avoid the life of faith in some church settings because it's telling you, here, take control. Don't die, live.
Yeah. Live, abide, bear fruit.
Because the old man,
this is what you were set free for.
Right. Yes.
Right. You don't want to get thrown in the burn pile, do you?
Yeah, dude, that's how it goes. And I guarantee you, the church I used to be at, they're going through these same chapters. And John, if they continue it, John 15's coming up. And I don't know that because I want to be a troll. I actually, as much as I, maybe listening to me, you might think that I don't love church folks, but I do, man. I do. And I hate when people like freaking lay on millstones around people's necks and, the burden of the law. But that's to all the people who know where I'm talking about, when you get into John 15, you are going to get the old theological math. You're saved by grace alone through faith, but that faith, if genuine, will produce fruit. And if you're not producing fruit, then you never really trusted in the right way. And they're going to use the passage as a warning, not a thing to pass on good news that his joy might be in us.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty mind-blowing how quickly what you're doing that you think is faithfulness is actually faithlessness.
Yeah.
It's out of your unbelief that you're running in this.
Mm-hmm.
So let's pull all this together here, man. Okay. You've got the characters nailed down. We know we got to definitely rethink. Like Jesus said, abide in me as I abide in you. So if your version of abiding in him, okay, if it doesn't compute with how he's abiding in you, you might not have the right idea about how you abide. So there's a union here that's been brought about by him, and he is good and for our joy. Okay. All these branches live and exist in him, and those that are not bearing fruit, he will raise up.
Right.
It's a promise. And all this is really starting to point to like, oh, damn. Mm-hmm. So this is what he's talking about. Like, I'm telling you this for your joy.
Yeah.
So what would be like one last thing, man, that you'd want to hit on that Jesus is showing here? It's going to be helpful to people.
Yeah. What I would just say is that this text allows for seasons of fruitlessness, that he uses viticulture as the example for what's, going on in life. And, things that live in the ground, they have seasons, man. They have seasons where, you can't really see much at times.
Right.
Or even seasons of, of fruitlessness. I think the way that we used to imagine bearing fruit, it was almost like a factory. Like, dude, walk in, flip the lights on, hit the buttons on the machine, and let's just start cranking out this fruit. Right? Man, we got all these programs, we got all this stuff, like boom, 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 crank it out. And it's like, no, like I think 15:2 is there's a massive amount of grace in life for all of us. He goes, every branch of me that does not bear fruit, he lifts it up, he raises it up. There's going to be times, man, where you struggle with seeing anything.
Yeah. And let's just
face it. That used to horrify me.
Yeah. Branches don't bear fruit all year round.
No, they don't.
Yeah, you have seasons of doing various things. Mm-hmm. And it's something that God holds, and we don't need to. That's the joy of trusting him, okay, of living and dwelling with him. So
there's something, I'll say this, there's something cool about you actually, there's something cool about discovering his love in a season of seemingly barrenness and fruitlessness, because you get to sit with and remain with the promises of his love, even in your inactivity. It's real easy to know that God loves you when you're crushing it. You're like, well, yeah, this makes sense. This feels a lot like, when I pat my kids on the back, for good grades or whatever, if they have some sort of accomplishment, like had a good game or, lifted a certain amount of weight in their, in their clean and jerk or whatever, or, made some piece of art or like whatever. But I think the good news of the gospel is like his love is coming full force and veracity toward us in our inactivity.
So while you're sitting right now in life, feeling things are barren, there's no fruit that's really showing. But ready for this? But while you're sitting in that, by faith, you're remaining in the belief, in the trust that he is my life.
Yes.
He's already loved me. He already has forgiven me. He's already made me whole, brought me home, made me free, made me one. I am the righteousness of God because I live in him who is righteous. This is my reality despite what I see.
Yeah.
You know what that is? That's fruit.
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to say it again. Sitting right now in the midst of your woe is me and the struggle, but you're clinging to that. That's fruit. That's faith. That's the Christian life. That's the Spirit of God at work and alive in you, despite what all that you think you should be seeing. And that's some pretty damn good news.
Right. It is, man. Dude, there's more you could say. I think, the distinction between bearing and producing, and some other little nuggets, man. But I would just encourage you, man, if you're like sitting here listening to this podcast and like in tears, because there's just like a joy welling up in your heart. Well, first of all, that's what he said. Like, if you feel joy welling up in your heart, then I think you're on the path of the right, really what he's saying here. Because he's saying, I say these things for your joy.
For your joy.
If at the end of a sermon in John 15, if you're like, holy shit, I might end up on a burn pile. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think, maybe you're probably getting handed a bad interpretation. I do, I think there is a reality of being taken away, but I think it's those, they just refuse, man. They just want to cling to their control. They want to cling to their autonomy, and they refuse an invitation of trusting and just dig their heels in.
Yep. Yeah, there is definitely that. We see that in all the parables. Everyone starts out included.
Yes.
Everyone.
Right.
Which but completely
here we go again.
Yes. With this whole scenario,
yep.
Jesus
inclusion before exclusion. Yes. Yes.
And in the end, in the refusal to trust him, and the refusal to believe him. Okay, which again, John 6, we talked about this. Jesus says, for the will of my Father, the will of God, if you're wondering what it is that you believe in the Son, in whom he sent. If you continue to refuse him, if you continue to accept reality, not only will you be missing out on the joy of reality right now, but you'll choose to forever live apart from him.
Yes.
And so, yeah, we do see that in the text, but that's not the thrust of it. The whole message of this thing is for people who are awakening this, people who are grabbing onto this, people who are rejoicing in this, in him saying, you're in me, and I'm in you. And I want you to know this. And I want you to know there's going to be seasons where I'm going to be bearing fruit that you'll see in and through this, and seasons where you don't. But just know this is your reality. And know this for your joy.
Yep.
Well, bro, thank you.
No,
thanks for doing the study on that, man, and just bringing that clarity to this grassroots movement of larks that are rejoicing in good news and passing it on where they are. So, real quick, I will say this. If you haven't had a chance to check out Reclaim, feel free to do so. There's further insights into this, what we've just talked about, that are in the book of Reclaim, along with a lot of other things in regards to grabbing on the good news, living it out, passing it on. You can find that at larksite.com. You'll see it right there. You'll see the book, grab a copy, dive in if that's you. That's what we wrote it for.
Yeah.
And because there's this joy, and I feel like there's a lot more joy, man, in grabbing onto other things that Jesus has really declared versus what we've been told.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%, man.
So cheers to this freaking podcast, man, being a place for that. For all you are listening, all you give to support it. Until next time.
Until next time.
Cheers.